And we're going to try to cover everything. But what are we going over today? We're going over Hopi Prophecies and the return of the Kachinas. So this is a massive subject. We have a lot to cover, so we are ready to go. We are good and going. So let's go ahead and get started. For one, who are the Hopi Indians? The Hopi Indians live in the Four Corners area. They live in the Four Cornered area. They live in the area of 4 different states where those 4 states meet. And that they're in the Four Corners, which would be on the state lines of Arizona, New Mexico, Utah, and Colorado, is where they're meeting. Now, we're going to go by their beliefs. If you have any problem with their belief, you take it up with them. Don't talk about that with me. They believe that they are the that they are the chosen people of all of the Indians, and they are the record keepers for all the Indians. And their records go back very far. And their belief system talk about a lot of very strange things that also go along with things that go along with the Bible. For one, they talk about what happened during the Great Flood. That they was not put in the ark. That they was preserved outside of the ark they was taken underground and preserved by the ant people during the Great Flood. And then after the Great Flood, they was led back to the surface. So we don't know who these ant people are. Are those gray aliens? Are there giant ants? I don't know. You need to talk to them. But they are they believe that they are the sacred people, and they're in contact with something called the Kachinas. And that's our first question that we had starting off is, what is the Kachinas? Mm-hmm. And okay, they believe that our world exists in between 2 other worlds. Okay. And these worlds have connections with our world. Now, the first world they're going to we're going to talk about these 2 worlds that they're in connection with. If you saw the movie Black Panther, remember in Black Panther he went and drank the bitter tea, and then he could go and meet with the ancestors. Okay, this is one of their worlds that they're in contact with. Is they're in contact with their ancestors and with sacred people from their tribe that is trying to lead the tribe into the future. Okay, that is one of the world. This other world they're in contact with is a spirit world. And they believe that they're in contact with the Great Spirit. Okay. And they believe in one God and one Spirit, and this one Spirit is what is leading their tribe and leading them forward. And this one Spirit has been telling them things. Now, is this one Spirit? One Spirit, is that Jesus? Is it God? Is it Jehovah? Is it Yahweh? I'm going to leave that blank. They do not have a name for this one Spirit, but they believe that they're in contact with the true Spirit. And there's only one Spirit, and they're in contact with that Spirit. And this Spirit has been giving them information for thousands of years. And some of this information we're going to be going over tonight, which is some of their prophecies. And you will see that a lot of their prophecies go along with things that are talked about in a lot of other religious books. And this is not something that they just came up with 10, 20 years ago. Some of this stuff is very, very old, extremely pre-Columbian, and we're just going to talk about it. Okay. And we're going to try not to offend anyone today. If I say something that offends somebody, I'm only going by the information that it's given me. And, but some of this it's kind of deep.
You're just the messenger.
I'm just the messenger. Excellent.
Yes.
Okay, so the main prophecy that they have, we're going to be going over several of their prophecies. First, their main thing is Prophecy Rock. Any questions so far? Are we doing good?
No, we're good.
Okay.
Everyone's saying hi.
Okay, so Prophecy Rock is their main thing, which is Prophecy Rock. Okay, which is this rock in the desert, which talks about their thing, and man have a choice of 2 paths that he can go through. Okay, so we can go with the upper path or the lower path. and what happens if we take the upper path or the lower path. And based off of that, we're going to go over several prophecies today. We're going to talk about the prophecy of the older brother, which is very bad. And we're going to talk about several other prophecies too. But let's talk about the prophecy of the elder brother first. This is very, very old and very unique. It has distinction about what's going on in America today. Now, they believe that back in the beginning, they're not saying where this beginning is, that the two brothers left and they crossed into Turtle Island. Turtle Island is what they believe the United States is. They believe the United States is a big island that looks like a turtle. And I guess the turtle would be like Mexico is one leg and Florida would be the other leg and Texas would be the head. But they always consider the United States to be an island, and it's called Turtle Island. The two brothers crossed into Turtle Island, but then the older brother had to go back to check on his dad. And the younger brother stayed. Okay. And the younger brother stayed here, and then when the white settlers came, he was mistreated by the settlers. And the older brother is going to return to seek revenge on what have happened to the younger brother. But the older brother, this is where it gets tricky, has changed the color of his skin. And the only way he can tell they're brothers is that their clothing is still the same. So the Indians been trying to find out who these people are, who is their older brother, since the brother changed his skin color. Okay. And I don't have the total answer to this, but it's very strange. If you look at the style of how Indians dress in the United States, and if you look at the native people of Mongolia, you see a lot of similarities. Okay. You also see some similarities with several other native peoples around the world. But we do not know who this older brother is. But when the older brother has completed his journey and have taken care, he will head back to Turtle Island. And when he comes back to Turtle Island and find the condition and see how his younger brother has been mistreated, that's going to be a very bad day for us. Very bad day. Okay. Because he will seek revenge for what have happened to his younger brother. And we have been kind of mean to his younger brother. Okay. Okay. You know, if you don't know what happened to the American Indians in America, you need to do some research. But I think it's called genocide. Okay. And, and what it says about the older brother is that the older brother is going to return all of the stolen land back to the younger brother. And he's going to seek revenge against everyone who was mean to the younger brother. So, I guess that is not going to be a good day for us. I guess that's not, because there's a lot of things that happen. So, we're going to go deeper into this parable about the older brother later, and talk about some of the details. But one thing they talk about, you're turning it, and
they want to see more of you.
They want to see more of me. They need to see. Okay. But anyway, excellent. Okay. Any questions so far? We're doing good. We're good. Okay, excellent. So, and we're keeping and we're in the same place. I was just checking. Okay, so let's talk about this is one of their parables. So before we talk about going forward, I like to go back in time. We always like to go back to the beginning, because the beginning is where things get good. Okay. And they was given some signs to look out for, that they knew that when the great purification was going to come. Okay. And these signs are very old. And this is what the Hopi's been keeping track of. We're going to go over the 9 signs that signifies that the older brother What's that?
Just look what they're saying. Move it back.
Okay. But anyway, okay. We need to move what back? Okay, but anyway, we need to go into the signs that they was told that signifies that the great purification is coming. And the great purification has to come before the Kachinas will come back. And we're going to talk about, we talked about who the Kachinas were, but we're going to talk about later what's going to happen when they return. Because the Kachinas, the sky people, the Great Spirit is returning. So they was given 9 signs that must occur before the great day of the purification. Let's go over these 9 signs. The first sign was that they would see the coming of white-skinned man. It's sign number 1. Okay, we know they saw that one. Sign number 2, that they would see the land would be crossed by spinning wheels full of voices. Okay, those was the wagon trains that came across the west. See, the Hopi have always been there for thousands of years. They just observed things. And they observed these wagon trains. Maybe they didn't know what they were, but that's what they referred to them as these spinning wheels full of voices. And they saw these wagon trains coming across their territory. That's sign number 2. Sign number 3 is that they would see strange beasts that looks like buffalo, but they would have long horns. Okay. These are called cattle. They never seen cattle before. They knew what buffalo was, but they didn't know what these strange beasts that looked like buffalo that had long horns were. Because the white man brought cattle into their territory. That was sign number 3. Sign number 4 is that the land would be crossed by snakes of iron. Indian reservation, all the lands are held communally. An individual Indian do not own his own property. The tribe owns everything. When the settlers came through, they put up all the barbed wire, distinguishing one property from another property. This was something that the Indians didn't understand. Okay. And they just called all this barbed wire snakes of iron that was put everywhere. And that made it where they could not travel freely anymore because these snakes of iron or barbed wire was blocking their path. You get what I'm saying? Because people had ownership of the land. How did they get ownership of Indian land? Well, that's a different subject for a different day. We don't want to go there. Okay. The 5th sign is that the land would be crisscrossed by giant spider webs. This is when the telegraph lines came through and they ran all these telegraph lines across their land. And again, the Indians didn't understand what telegraphs were. They didn't understand. They just knew they was putting up all these poles and putting all these lines everywhere. To them, this is very strange. They're just observing, but it's one of their signs that they was told a long time ago. Sign number 6 is that they would see the crisscross, the land would be crisscrossed with rivers of stone. Okay, these are roads. And they saw that the land was crisscrossed with all these different roads and railroads and things like that. To the Indians, they didn't know what that was either. They just lived in the prairie.
Okay, can I stop?
Yes.
They're complaining about the camera.
What's wrong with the
They're
camera?
saying it's zoomed in. I don't know.
Okay.
Better towards you.
Okay, is that better? I don't know what people complaining about the camera, but we're going to leave the camera like that. Okay. Now, that was sign number 6. Sign number 7 is that they would hear about the seas turning black and many living things in the seas dying. This is caused because of all the pollution. Because one thing they was doing on Indian property in the West is they was doing a lot of gold mining and silver mining and all this stuff, and all the pollution was polluting the lakes and the rivers, and a lot of things was dying. Okay, and they saw this. The ninth and last sign is that, and this one hasn't, now all of these other ones have already came true. The ninth sign still haven't happened yet. The ninth sign is you will hear of a dwelling place in heaven above the earth that will fall with a giant crash. It will appear as a blue star. That has not happened yet. Now, this is similar to what is talked about in the Bible, that they will hear about this dwelling place in heaven. Remember, Christ is talking about returning in the clouds. We do not know what this means. Okay. So, what do Indians know about a dwelling place in heaven? I don't have the slightest idea. So, this last sign has not appeared yet. But all these signs must appear before you get to the purification. And in the purification, after these signs have come, then the world will rock to and fro, which is polar shift, which we did on another show, where you have the, our sun explode and all the tectonic plates of the earth shifts, and the earth and the axial tilt of the earth will actually switch to a new position. We discussed this. That's called polar shift, and the Bible says the earth will act like a drunkard. In Indian philosophy, is the Hopi has said that the earth will rock to and fro, and then the white man will battle against other people in other lands, and then this starts the beginning of the purification, and then after this, who they're saying, and you can write this name down, the name of the guy that, see, we're saying that Jesus is returning. All over the world, this person who is returning has a different name. In Christianity, Christ is coming on a white horse. In Islam, the Mahdi is coming on a flying white horse with a sword. In Hinduism, Kalki is coming on a white horse with a sword. Okay. In Hopi Prophecy, his name is Phahana. He is the one who is coming. And when he comes, he will introduce a new teaching to the people. And he will bring about the fifth world of mankind. Okay. But he's the one who's coming. So, is it this guy who would be pronounced Phahana, or is it Kalki? Is it the Mahdi? Is it Jesus? Is all these people one and the same? I guess we're going to have to wait to find out. But this is a future event because this has not happened yet. We haven't had polar shift yet. We have not had World War III, which is this fighting, which we'll go over. And then they said that what will happen when we enter into the fifth world of mankind. Okay, now, to get rid of some confusion, if you listen to different Indian myths, some myths says that we're entering the fourth world, some myths say we're entering into the fifth world. I'm going to explain what the confusion is. The confusion is there a zero or not? Because they believe time is a circle which is cyclical. So if there is a zero, you have first world, second world, third world, fourth world. If there is no zero, then you have first world, second world, third world, fourth world, fifth world. It's the same. So some Indian tribes, if you read Indian prophecies, some say that we're entering the fourth world. Some say we're entering the fifth world. It depends on if you have a zero or not. And my hero is zero. I have a zero. But not everyone has a zero. Okay. So we're not arguing over if it's the fourth world or the fifth world. We're not going there. Okay. But we're talking about when we enter this new world. And the Hopis know what happened to the previous worlds. Okay, let's go over what happened to the previous worlds. Since we're living in what they call the end of the fourth world, they're saying that the first world was destroyed by fire. The second world was destroyed by ice. The third world was destroyed by flood. And the fourth world will be destroyed again by fire. Okay. So, this is what they're saying. Okay. And the world is going to be by fire, and we're going to talk about what fire is this. And we're going to leave the Hopi and go to the Navajo. Because in a lot of Indian tribes, they talk about this phoenix bird. The fire and the phoenix rise out of the fire. The fire is the fire of our destruction. Okay. And this is how the Indians get their land back. Okay, so let's talk about, this is not a good subject, dear, but we're going over this. You know, you read all this bad stuff in Revelation. If you don't believe in that, you can be scared by the Hopi prophecies too, or the Navajo prophecies. It's all bad, dear. Okay. Or you can, you can go around the world. Okay, it's all the same. This is why all these religious texts are connected around the world. Because if you read the different texts, you can read about the Mahdi, you can read about Kalki, you can read about Jesus returning, you can read, they're all saying the same thing. We're going to get it. Okay. And I was going over this with someone the other day, I'm not going to mention who, about what is written in the book of Daniel, since we're talking for a minute. Before I get to there, any questions so far?
No, okay.
Okay, we're good. Okay, if you got any questions, any complaints, you can say.
Let me put my readers
yeah,
on
but
here.
everything about the camera angle. I'm tired of the camera. Okay, now let's talk about what's talked about in the book of Daniel. Okay, the book of Daniel talk about this statue. This is the second book of Daniel, and that this statue is made, and this statue is made of different parts, and it got is made of gold and silver and different things. But the main thing we want to stress on that statue is what the feet is made out of. The feet is made out of iron and clay, which stands for us today, which is the America is the iron. The British is the clay, and they don't mix, but the feet is made out of iron and clay. And then it talks about in the book of Daniel that there is a rock which is carved out of the mountain with no hands, and this rock strikes the feet of the statue, and the entire statue collapses, and the wind comes through and blow all the remnants of the statue away. And then that rock turns into a mountain which covers the entire earth. Okay. That's very weird and strange. Okay.
Right here, here's a question. Did the Mayan calendar already ended in 2010?
Okay. I will accept this question. Now, the difference between Eastern philosophy and Western philosophy. We believe in something called linear time. The past is that way, the future is that way. And the past has nothing to do with the future. This is what we believe in the West. The rest of the world, most ancient civilizations did not have that concept. They believe in something called cyclical time or linear time, where time is a circle. And time keeps repeating itself. It goes around like a clock. So when you get to 11:59 p.m., when you strike midnight, the day is over. That doesn't mean that time has ended. It's the end of that day and you start the next day. This is why the clock, it goes around in circular time. So what 2012 was about is that they was trying to, okay, we're back to the Bible again. Jesus says that there's a mistake in the Bible. I keep unfortunately telling you about this stuff. It's written in our book. It's a translation error. That Jesus would return at the end of time. because time is linear. That is incorrect. He said he will return at the end of the age. Remember, the zodiac has 12 signs and they go around in a circle. We're at the end of the age and we're starting a new age. We have entered the age of Aquarius. Okay. Now you was lied to. You was told that we was in the age of Pisces, the age of Christ, for the last 2,000 years, and we entering the age of Aquarius, which is a lie. If we was in the age of Pisces, the age of Christ for 2,000 years, why was there so many wars and so many headaches and so many problems and so many this? If we was in the age of Christ. If you look on any zodiac chart, Pisces do not come before Aquarius. What signs come before Aquarius? Capricorn. We've been in the age of the horned demon for the last 2,000 years. And this is why the last 2,000 years has been the bloodiest in all of mankind history. Because we was in the age of the horned demon. That is the age which have ended. We are crossing into the age of Aquarius, the age of the water bearer. Who is the water bearer? Remember, we showed you before about those angels back in Sumer. They always carried water buckets in their hand, and they carried the tree, the fruit of life, in their hands. Those are the water bearers. They decide who lives and who don't. They decide. They're the ones who decided to let us cross and to not replace us with the black-eyed kids. They make the decision. We don't make the decision. How did they get to make that decision? I don't know. But they're called the life carriers, and they make the decision. This is why if you look at the evolutionary track of man, when you look at Homo pithecus, Homo erectus, Homo this, Homo that, somebody pressed the start button, someone pressed the end button. Neanderthal was here for 250,000 years, and then somebody hit the button and he went away. Okay. We started out as Cro-Magnon, animal man. We switched to Homo sapiens, smart man. They started. Hopefully, they won't press that button anytime soon. If they would have replaced it with the black-eyed kids, they would have hit the button. And I will tell you the secret of how they get rid of people. As they talk about in the show The Living Dead. We are all infected with a disease. They just need to turn it on. That's the secret of why it's all these zombie movies everywhere. Whenever they decide to get rid of us, they will hit the button and the zombie plague will begin and we will just go away. Okay. That's the reason in The Walking Dead they said everyone on the earth is infected. Something turned it on. They don't understand why. Because what they don't know in the Living Dead movie is somewhere on the earth they had set up a new Garden of Eden for the new ones. Okay. So they're going to let us cross. They're being nice. We need to be nice to them and say muchas gracias, thank you. Okay. But back to our subject we was at hand. Okay. So there's a lot of things, and this is why this guy is coming, because we are crossing into the fifth age of mankind. We are not worthy to cross. We did not pass the test. The Hindus know there's only two ways to cross. See, you have the Golden Age, the Silver Age, the Golden Age where the earth is a paradise. There's only one people, one religion, one everything. You have the Silver Age where there's a few different people, but they live far away and there is no problems. Then you have the Bronze Age where you have the beginning of civilizations and the beginning of wars. Then you have the Iron Age where everything is like we are today. And then you have that line between, remember, time is cyclical. You have to cross back from the Iron Age back into the Golden Age again. But that line between the two ages is called the conflict age. And you have to get across that line. There's only two ways to get across the line. You can cross through enlightenment, and we can turn the world back into a paradise. That's the reason George H. Walker Bush was talking about we was going to get rid of all war, and we was going to enter a new world order, and we was going to start building parks and everything. See, people thought that speech was very straight. I finally explained what he was talking about. And we was going to do that. Then we discovered, wait a minute, we can be one world superpower instead. And we decided, maybe we don't want to cross into an age of enlightenment. We would rather be one world superpower instead. And we threw all that in the garbage. Okay. So if you don't cross through the age of enlightenment, there's only another way to cross. Where the world is destroyed and the few survivors crawl into a new stone age and you start all over again. Okay, this is what should have happened to us. But because of that war that you read about, and they're trying to put that war off, they're going to let us cross. We're not able to cross. They're going to cross us. This is why we must be crossed into the fifth age, because we're unworthy to cross on our own. They're going to allow us to cross, and they are going to cross us. Who are they? Oh, we really don't want to talk about that. That's too scary. Okay.
Is that another subject?
Now that's very scary. Who are they? Okay. That's the reason when we had this talk before, we talked about how certain people are on list, and they're going to be taken up, and some people refer to this as the rapture, or you can refer to it as these giant alien UFO ships are going to come and gather the faithful together. You can call it whatever you want. They're going to cross us. Okay. Their goal is there's 7 billion people on this planet. They're going to try to cross 5 billion of us into the new age. Okay. That's going to be a heavy lift for them. Okay. Because in the middle of all this stuff going on, the sun exploding, the continents moving around, giant tidal waves, everything going on. They're going to try to save 5 billion of the 7 billion. That's going to be a very heavy lift.
Okay, there's a question.
Yes.
What happens to the ones left?
Okay, if you're not taken up in the giant UFOs and protected that way, if you're not taken underground like the Hopi and protected that way, if you're not taken into the mountains and protected that way, if you're not protected in any way, you are left behind. And you have to survive the 7 days of polar shift on your own. It's only 7 days. You can make it for 7 days on your own, right? Okay. Just because the sun explodes and the temperature goes up to probably 200 degrees, and then all the continents move in giant earthquakes, and then there's giant tidal waves, and then at the end you have nuclear winter where the temperature goes to 200 below zero, and then everything goes back, and then there's a new earth and a new heaven because the earth will be totally transformed. It will happen in 7 days. If you're left behind, you have to make it through those 7 days on your own. But just remember, it's only 7 days. You can do it. Only 7 days. Only 7 days. You can do it. Okay.
No problem.
No problem. So if you're left behind, you have to survive the 7 days on your own. If you're not left behind, then you are protected in some kind of way. Okay. So either way, you can make it, right? Okay, so we're doing good. So let's talk about the great purification. Any questions so far? Are we doing good?
You're saying you're doing a great job.
Oh, I'm doing a great job.
Yeah.
Excellent. I guess y'all don't have any questions or anything. I guess
Thanks,
I'm just
Annette.
scared, huh?
Yeah, thanks, Annette.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I guess I'm scaring the hell out of everybody. Okay, but remember, tonight after this broadcast, you probably will need to have a drink or two. Relax, breathe in deeply, and then you'll be able to get some rest. Okay, so let's talk about... Right. Now, before the purification, remember, I gave you the signs. Now, the sign is of number 6 is that the white man will fight against the other nations. I didn't write this. The Hopi did. So I'm just reading. And they talk about what's going to happen in this war. So they're saying World War III will be started by the people who first received the light on the earth. We don't know who first received the light. Is those the people in the Middle East? Are those the people in China? Are those the people in India? I don't have this. Is those the Iranians? I don't have the slightest idea. They're the ones who will start World War III, the people who first received the light.
Someone says, is there any way to prevent these events?
No. Read the Bible and ask your preacher, is there any way to avoid the things that happen in Revelation? Okay, there's two definitions of time. We don't know what is true. Is time a river that we're going on, that if you see a rock up ahead that you can try to avoid, or is time is a book? If time is a book and the book have already been published, then you are doing what the Greeks call divine comedy, where you're just playing your role and living out your part. Okay. Because the book have already been published. You're just playing your part in the book. Can you change the book? Okay. We would like to believe that time is a river, that we have choices. But if time is a book, and that book was published thousands of years ago, the book has already been published. Everybody already read it. Okay, so this is what the Bible and all religious books are based off of, is that time is already written. And you're just playing your part and doing your divine comedy. Okay. And you're just living out your life for the amusements of the gods. That's not me talking, that's the Greeks talking. I didn't say that. Okay, so let's talk about what the Hopi say about what will happen in World War III. It's going to be started by the people that first received the light, and the United States will be destroyed, and the land of the people will be attacked by nuclear weapons, is what they say. And they're saying that only their homeland will be one of the main places for refugees. Okay. Because most of the United States will be radioactive. I didn't say that, they're doing. And they're saying that this conflict will not only be a material conflict, it will be a spiritual and material war at the same time. What does that mean? I don't have the slightest idea. So that means we're fighting on the earth and they're fighting upstairs too in heaven? Oh my gosh, that's very deep. And they're saying that the material world will be destroyed by spirit beings. Okay, and what else they say? And they're saying these spirit beings are under control of the one great spirit. Okay, and they're saying what else? Let me see. Let's go on. This is so deep. My hands are already shaking. Okay, so they talk about, what happens. Okay, let me get back to here. Okay, let's talk about this war. So, they said that when he comes, he will be all-powerful. Nobody will be able to stand against him. And now this is code. You can figure this out. They said that if war comes from the east, it will not be that bad. But if war comes from the west, that do not get on your rooftops, because there will be no mercy showed to anyone. What does that mean? I have no idea. Sounds very bad. Okay.
Yeah, you do.
So, let's talk. She thinks I have some idea of what's going on. Okay.
He knows.
Okay. So, now, after this war, this is when this guy come, a Pahana. He is the true white man, not the fake white man that the Indians have been dealing with so far. Okay. What does that mean? Okay. I'm going to tell you what that means. See, all these Indian tribes, from the Aztecs to what's going on in Peru, they all talk about that hundreds or thousands of years ago, they was visited by this guy who had a beard and long robes, came to visit them. And nobody can figure out who this is because Indians don't have beards and Indians never wore long robes. But the Aztecs, the Mayan, the Indians in throughout Central and South America and America, they all talk about this person who visited them long time ago who had a beard and long robes. He is the true white brother. That's what they call the true white brother, was that white guy. Then they said later on the fake white brothers came. This is why when the conquistadors landed in Mexico, they thought Cortez was the return of the true white brother. That's why they treated him as a god. But he was the fake white brother. Okay. Don't get mad at me. Send all of your letters of protest to those Hopi Indians. They're spreading all of this. It's not Lynn Livsey. I'm only telling you their prophecies. Okay. So.
Just the messenger. I'm
just the messenger. Okay. So, when the true white brothers come, he will bring a new life plan to the earth and will leave all of mankind to eternal life. Haven't I read that before somewhere? And the earth will be made anew and beautiful again, and abundant with life and food. And that all the races will intermingle, and they will all come to speak one tongue and be all of one family. Remember, in the golden age, there's one religion, one race, and one people. That's how we get back to one again. All of the races will intermingle. Some people are going to have a problem with that. Okay. You get what I'm, don't you? Okay. Send your protest letters to the Hopis. Don't send them to me. Okay. So, what else they're saying? Okay. And about this war, this is how bad they're saying this war is going to be. They're saying that the United States is going to be destroyed, and that it will be covered in ash, and the rivers will boil, and green grass will not grow for many years, and people will have diseases that no medicine can cure. Mm-hmm. That doesn't sound very nice. Okay. So, this is what they're calling the Great Purification. And all of this is being placed on the United States because they was mean to the younger brother. Remember? The younger brother, we was not nice to him. And this is our punishment for being mean to the younger brother. Okay. So, we need to go back in history and try to correct what we did to that younger brother. And plus they say something very strange too. I don't understand this, but this is something they talk about in their prophecies. That Indians from before the Great Purification, there will be a mass migration of Indians from Mexico, Central and South America will all come to Turtle Island. Is that those caravans out there? Okay. I hope we don't put all these people in cages. Okay. And they're saying this great migration from Central South America and Mexico will happen before the Great Purification. Is that what's happening now? I hope not, because we're being very mean to those people. And the elder brother is going to get really mad at us. Okay. I think we need to quit putting those people in cages and quit taking their kids away. Okay. So, remember what I told you. Any complaints about this, send it to the Hopis. Don't send it to me. I'm only telling you their prophecies about the Great Purification. And then the Kachinas will come. These Kachinas are these spirits that work with the Great Spirit. They will come and they will work with the Hopis and they will help the earth to be transformed into this new paradise, and the earth is going to be made anew. This is the same thing that's mentioned in the book of Revelation, that there will be a new heaven and a new earth. Okay. The reason the earth is going to be new is because all the continents will be changed. The reason there will be a new heaven, which we talked about during Polar Shift, because after our sun explodes, our sun is becoming more ultraviolet, less infrared. So after Polar Shift, our sun will be a lot more infrared. This is why the changes, and they're saying that the changes will start before the purification. Scientists have already noticed that insects, roaches, are already starting to evolve. In roaches, with their outer shells are becoming thicker, because they must protect themselves from the ultraviolet light. Science don't understand why their outer shells are becoming so much thicker. Because our sun is switching from infrared to ultraviolet. This is why after Polar Shift, which is talked about in some religious books, that the sky will be a different color. It won't be blue anymore. The sky will have a purplish color. Okay. Because of all the ultraviolet light that will be in the air. That means man needs to change too, because if we're getting skin cancer now, oh my gosh, it's going to be party time after Polar Shift. I guess we're going to have new skin too or something. I don't know what's going on. Or maybe we'll just live in giant dome cities. That's the reason maybe in these futuristic movies we're always living in dome cities all the time. Okay, but this is kind of bad. Very, very bad. How we're doing on time?
We have about 15 minutes.
And we haven't had a single question in all this time. Just scared.
Comments. You're scaring people.
I'm scaring people? Okay, but the reason I wanted to go over this, because people, when they read the Bible, said, oh, that's just that old Jewish stuff. You don't have to go by that. Those Jews just made all this stuff up. Okay, so let's say the Jews made it up. Then you can read the Hopi Prophecy. It says the same thing, or you can read it in the Quran. It's the same thing, or you can read about it in the Gita. You can go all over the world, and all over the world it says the same thing, that the end is coming. Mm-hmm. Okay. And it says that we're going to get it. Okay. So, now the rest of the world wasn't mean to the younger brother like we was, but to the Hopi Prophecies, we get it especially bad, since we was mean to that younger brother. We're really going to get it.
Okay, here's a question.
Yes.
Can that polar shift be from California's earthquake?
No, okay, what is happening, why we're getting so many earthquakes, is because the magnetic field of the earth is weakening. You can Google this. Okay. And science don't understand why. I will tell you why. Because what polar shift is about is every 25,700 years, or 26,000, however you want to say it, our sun sheds its outer coat in a giant explosion. We covered this under Polar Shift. And when our sun has that big explosion, this is about the blue Kachina, which we're going to go over in the last few minutes. This is talked about in Catholicism back during Fatima. The Virgin Mary said that before the end come, the world will be shown a sign that everyone will be able to see, but no one will be able to touch. And when you see this sign, you know that the end is upon you. The Hopi calls that the blue Kachina. What is that? That is when our sun explodes. We will look in the sky and say, damn, what's wrong with that sun? It's making all kind of giant explosions. That thing went crazy up there.
Someone's asking.
Now, okay, let me finish this.
Oh, okay.
Okay, but that explosion is going to take 3 days to get to us. So we have 3 days to enjoy the light show before hell get to us. We get to enjoy the giant explosions. That's the sign in the sky that everyone will be able to see and no one will be able to touch. So you can go and get your lawn chair and enjoy it, but in 3 days, you're going to catch it. Okay. That's how long it takes for the light of the sun to get to us. So after we see the big explosions, that's when you know you're in big trouble. And hopefully you get raptured or taken underground or whatever. Yes, what question?
It says, will we be able to survive the magnetic polar shift?
Well, when that heat wave hit the earth, it's a passing blow. If you're on the part of the earth, that's the reason the Bible says 1/3 of the green grass will be destroyed, 1/3 of the ships will be destroyed, 1/3. If you're facing the sun is rotating. The earth is rotating. If you're facing the sun when that blast wave comes through, it will be a very bad day. We know where the blast wave hit during the last polar shift. If you take a globe and spin it around, the whole globe is green except for one brown spot. Northern Africa. They had a bad day. Okay. Now, where will it hit this time? If you was in Northern Africa during the last polar shift, the temperature, they have found in Egypt marble stairs that have been melted, where the temperature must have risen to several hundred degrees to melt marble stairs. If you was there at the time, you probably had a bad day. Okay. But it was a glancing blow. So if you survive that, that's what makes the Earth magnetic field drop to zero. That's what makes the continents of the Earth starts moving. And the Atlantic Ocean is expanding. The Pacific Ocean is collapsing. So after polar shift, the Atlantic Ocean will be a lot bigger. The Pacific Ocean is going to be a lot smaller. If you live along the Ring of Fire and all of that come crashing in, you will probably have a bad day. Okay. Now, after that, because the oceans are moving, you have giant tidal waves that could be 1,000 feet tall or whatever. If you're near the ocean, either one probably will have a bad day. Okay. You get what I'm talking about? So there's a lot of things that can happen. And then the continents, the earth is rebalancing themselves. What makes polar shifts stop is that the Bible says that our sun will turn black. Because the sun has to cool off. When the sun turns black, it's giving off no heat. Then, instead of a heat wave approaching the earth, you have a cold wave approaching the earth. And the temperature will go from extremely hot to super cold. And that's what freezes the continents in their new position. When the temperature goes to minus 200 degrees and stays there for several hours or a day before the earth warms back up to its normal temperature. Okay. Now, that is the new position of all the continents. Remember, all of this will happen in a 7-day period.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they're asking how soon is this going to take part, but we don't know.
In the Bible, it says that only God knows the day and the hour.
That's right.
The Hopi was just told the signs. Right. We have, of the 9 signs, we have seen 8 of the signs.
Yeah.
We have not seen, talk about, you will hear, let's read the 9th sign again. So when you hear CNN talking about this, you know we're in trouble. They said that the 9th sign is you will hear of a dwelling place in the heavens above the earth. We don't know where that is. And it will come crashing down. It will appear as a blue star. I told you what the blue star is. So what makes this thing crash is the explosions of our sun.
Okay.
Yes.
Someone's asking, does the black moon have anything to do with this?
The black moon? Okay, the Bible says that the moon will turn red as fire. The red is that come because when that blast wave hit the moon will actually catch on fire. Okay, when the blast wave hit the moon. But it didn't say nothing about a black moon. The sun will turn black. Because the sun will go from exploding to going black to turning back to its normal. And we have noticed this in several star systems around us. That we have observed over the last 20 years, several stable stars go supernova, where we think they're going to blow up. They explode for several days, and then they go back to being normal again. I guess polar shift happened in that solar system.
She's saying the black moon is tonight.
Oh, the black moon. Okay, the black moon is caused. You're talking about a linear event. This is caused because the Earth is there's a line between the sun, the Earth, and then the moon, and the Earth is blocking the light from the moon because the Earth is in between the moon and the sun, which caused the moon to turn black. But this has nothing to do with polar shift. That is just because of the rotations. You get what I'm saying? Yes, that is not part of the prophecies. So, the Hopis believe that they will be allowed to give, and after this, they're going to get all of their lands back. And this goes into all Indian prophecies. All Indians believe that once they saw the half-man, half-horse coming from the east, which was the settlers, they would lose all their land, go through a great period of tribulations, but after the tribulations, they would rise out of the fire and they would get all of their lands back. The fire is the fire of our destruction, and this is how the native people get their land back. But there's one thing you have to know. The Indians only get their land back if they purify themselves. That's why all the Indians, all the native people all over the world are going back to their old clothes. They're going back to their old religion. They're going back to their old customs. Because if they do not purify themselves, they will also be destroyed. So they have to return to their original state. And it says something else here too. That not only will the Indian reservations be refugee camps, that the only people they will allow on their all the native people have to allow other people to go onto their land, but only if they adapt their custom and ways. So, if you want to go on the Indian reservation and take your hard rock and all this stuff and take your, take your ghetto rap and all this stuff, I don't think that's called purifying yourself. You have to join their customs and join their ways. They have to let you in. Okay. We're running out of time. What else?
Yeah, just a few minutes.
Yes. Any other questions?
Let's see. Hold on.
So, it's not too late for us. We need to be nicer to these people. And the reason why they're saying all these people from South America, Central America, and Mexico will come to Turtle Island because they're coming to see this guy who's coming. And let me give you his name again. You can look him up. His name is, what was his name? It's P. No, it starts with a P, don't it?
Oh, I thought it was.
Okay, his name is, gosh. Okay, while we're looking for that, let's make sure there's no other questions. Okay. Because we still got 2 or 3 minutes, and then we're going to talk about what we're going over next week.
Have a good night.
But remember, you need to relax.
Thanks.
You need to take it easy. P-A-H-A-N-A is what the Hopi calls this guy whose work, he is sent by the Great Spirit. Mm-hmm. He's the one who's coming.
Okay, Nancy says, she's asking again, what was Turtle Island again?
Turtle Island is the United States. Remember, yes. Florida is one leg, California is the other one, and Texas is the head. They don't see America as a continent. They see America as a giant island. It's called Turtle Island. Okay, now, what